Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports after the start of the new league year this week and a wild, crazy, chaotic week in the NFL and in Eagle Land a little bit. Some departures, some additions, some new news yesterday that we have yet to hit on, including a late-night signing last night by the Philadelphia Eagles that was out of the parameters for Johnny Mack, and I had to do a quick reaction. That is my mistake, folks. I finally closed up shop around 10:40 last night, and around 10:55, Howie Roseman says, Arnold Ebiketie, you're a Philadelphia Eagle. So he landed last night. We will break that down with you here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all you guys being here and for all the support this week and really all year long. J-Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend?
Doing well. Yeah, it's a player the Eagles have long had interest in. Typical Howie Roseman signing. Young guy, upside that maybe hasn't been reached. Definitely hasn't been reached, and they think he still has, as Howie would say, talent in his body. And he's here, but for those who think this is the move on the edge, I don't agree with that. This doesn't preclude them, and they should be looking for, a centerpiece for that edge rush. But it's a little bit of a higher level deal than Azeez Ojulari, Josh Uche, people like that from last season. So upgrade there. If this is your fourth edge rusher, it's pretty good. Problem is you need number one, right, and everything falls into place. And former Temple kid, played at Temple before he finished up at Penn State his final year. So he played most of his college career on North Broad Street. So now head to South Broad Street. Also, he's from Cameroon, same town as Joel Embiid. How weird is that?
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that about it. What is it, John? How do you pronounce the name? Ebiketie?
Ebiketie.
Arnold Ebiketie has landed in Philly. That's interesting. Same town as Joel Embiid. Pretty cool.
Yeah. They've never met, though, evidently. So that's, hopefully they do at some point. But, I like him. I've always liked him. I talked about him a lot last year.
Yeah.
When the Eagles were looking for edge rushing help as somebody who maybe has an upside but hasn't reached it yet. On the other hand, there were plenty of opportunities in Atlanta, and you have to question what went on there because they drafted two edge rushers this year. That knucklehead who's in deep trouble, James Pierce, and who was the other one?
The Jalen Walker, I believe it was from Georgia, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they sort of carpet bombed the edge because they weren't happy with what was going on. So
they also had another vet there last year, didn't they? Was it Leonard Floyd? I think they had Leonard Floyd in Atlanta.
Yeah, their pass rush was pretty good last year.
Yeah, they had a pretty extensive.
Because Pierce, and they're not going to get that back, unfortunately. He was pretty good and they got better, but it wasn't necessarily Ebiketie getting better. I think he had 2 sacks last year. He had six and a half, prior. So, never reached that ceiling. Very high second round pick. He was a second round pick. I think he was 38th. So very high second round pick, tremendous athlete. Very similar to Tariq Woolen from an athletic standpoint, big time athlete. And that's what Howie likes. Doesn't have quite the production, quite the history, but that's who he likes to go after, guys with upside. And I still think he has upside, certainly be a sub-package pass rusher. That's what I think will be here. So I like this signing. I think it's a pretty good signing, unless you got people thinking this is the guy that's going to make a difference, that, is going to be Jalen Phillips, or he's going to be, the Eagles tried to get in the Trey Hendrickson thing. They tried to trade for Jonathan Grenard. We'll see if they can do that. He's not going to be that guy.
And you don't think, like you said, you don't think this move will stop them from making that move? Yeah, I agree.
No.
I think that's going to be a big question among the fan base, though. Like, okay, good signing, but are we now out on Grenard? Are we not going to go for the big name yet? Okay.
No. This is like sort of New England signing Romeo Dobbs and saying they're out of the A.J. Brown race.
Right.
And not Romeo's probably a little bit more accomplished.
Yeah, a little higher, right.
Yeah, but you get my point.
Well, John, I mean, if he's going to be your fourth, if they're able to land the one and he's your fourth, I think it's a good move. I mean, that gives you four.
That's damn good.
That's real good.
You know, really who this probably impacts more is Brandon Graham because, you know, if they get that, you know, but Brandon proved he can move inside. They might keep him around because he's so versatile just to be a small player. But, you know, say you trade for Grenard, and it's Grenard, Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, Arnold Ebiketie. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a pretty strong edge rushing group. Now they just got to land the one, which is the hardest one to land, Johnny Mac. So we will see what they do with Arnold Ebiketie. All right, he landed last night. John, what'd you make of the money? It was a 1 year, $7.3 million, I believe, with around $4.3 million guaranteed. So that's probably closer to what the real money is, probably $3 million or so of incentives in there. Pretty good. Johnny Mac, what'd you make of that?
Yeah, but that's, you know, value signing with some upside. You know, that's same thing with Woolen to a little bit of a higher degree. You know, right. Gets 12 million up to 15. Similar here, you know, big time talent. Who if things really work out, you know, you might have a home run. You might have a guy who can be I don't want to say a number one, but a really good number two or number three, and that gives you optionality down the road, you know, because you're probably going to have to make that decision at some point. Do you want to keep Nolan Smith? Do you want to keep Jalen Hunt? You know, maybe he makes that a little bit easier. And then it's the prove it aspect. I mean, he knows that he's got a chance to be on a good team, a good defense, a good defensive coordinator, good talent around him, and he can get right back to free agency next year and get a bigger deal.
Yeah, it's like Vic Fangio said, it feels like we're the farm system for the rest of the league. Did you hear that comment?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a classic comment from Vic Fangio. It almost sounded to me like a little bit of a subtle shot, not at Howie, but just like how many departures they've had on defense over the last.
I think he's tweaking his fellow defensive coordinators. That's what
maybe. So the Eagles have become the farm system. We will see. Ebiketie made a good move here, if that is the role, because you can see what people have done and coming here and then getting signed elsewhere. We will see what happens there. John, we'll get more into Arnold Ebiketie, but there were some other things that hit yesterday, Johnny Mac, that I want to get to here in the opening segment as well. That's not the only thing. The Landon Dickerson restructure came down. We did a little segment on that yesterday, so we'll get to that in a sec. They also re-signed their punter, Braden Mann, which we were calling for because he was obviously a very good punter last year. Pretty big deal for Braden Mann, so that landed. And then also the addition of Jonathan Jones, another veteran cornerback, signed to the roster. Let's start with Braden Mann, Johnny Mac, 4-year, $14 million deal, and stability at punter when he was really one of the few bright spots of the team, especially late in the year last year. Really a strong season for Braden Mann, and they lock him up for the next 4 years. Your response and your reaction to that signing?
It's the largest investment in a punter in the Howie Roseman era. So I think that's something to hold on to and say. And if you look at he's the longest tenured punter here since Donnie Jones. And if you look at, the two Super Bowl winning punters, Donnie Jones and Braden Mann, that's, maybe there's something to that, having some consistency instead of trying to piecemeal it together every couple of years and try to go a little bit cheap. And then the Eagles have always talked about how good of a holder he is. Nobody thinks about that until you start having issues with it. So just a really solid player. Who's done a phenomenal job when he got here, that was in the wake of Aaron Cepas and the Super Bowl and the bad punt. And then he comes back. They give him one more chance, and he punted very poorly early in the 2023 season. And they brought in Braden Mann, and he was just lights out. He set the franchise record for punting, both gross punting average and net punting average. It's the first year he got here. And he broke the gross average last year. He's like 49.8, 48.8 to 49.9. I mean, this guy's been phenomenal. And the net has been, 43-ish, 42 has been tremendous as well. And obviously coverage comes into that and all the great gunners the Eagles have had over the years. But yeah, nobody cares about punter, but you should, because you have a damn good one. And the Eagles obviously invested in him. A little bit surprised because, again, they don't typically do that. I thought maybe they would go cheap, and they didn't. And I think that's a good thing.
I do too. I think Braden Mann was a good signing for the Eagles. Big money, but I mean, it's it's kind of what happens with the punter. I hope it doesn't fall into a situation where, I don't want to rip on Jake Elliott, but I'm of the belief that Jake Elliott should be out of here, but he's not going to be out of here because of the contract, obviously. But he's had two pretty poor seasons, I would say, by his standard for Jake Elliott. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Braden Mann, where you can't move on from him because you got a bunch of money tied up in a punter. But I think we'll be all right with Braden Mann. Good signing there for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, John, the other signing was cornerback Jonathan Jones, an older player, obviously. I think he's 32 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Nice veteran insurance. What'd you make of that signing of the cornerback Jonathan Jones to the Birds?
Well, I think the Eagles were not happy with their cornerback situation last year. And, more than two are going to have to play. You hope Quinyon Mitchell's out there every play, and you hope now Reek Woolen's out there. But you saw when Adoree Jackson went down, some of the issues with Keely Ringo and Jacorian Bennett, and really limited time before he got hurt. And Mac McWilliams couldn't get on the field. So, this to me is them wanting to go back to sort of Isaiah Rodgers in 2024 as your third corner, who, when he came in, was forced to play, played really well. And this is a guy who's played a long time Patriot, played last year in Washington. I think, and another comparison with the Eagles with Rodgers is you look at Rodgers, and he looks like a slot corner, but he isn't. He only plays outside, and he played well. And if you look at him, if you look at Jonathan Jones, size-wise, you'll think slot corner, and he can play in there, but mainly he plays outside, and he's played it well over the years. So, he'll be the top backup to Quinyon Mitchell and Reek Woolen. And I think the Eagles have really, really improved a cornerback room that was already really, really good, because it started with Quinyon Mitchell and
right.
Cooper DeJean. And now they have significant depth. And, Ringo, I think, will be here. You never know if somebody wants to offer something of value just because of his special teams acumen. When we talk about
I just don't know if seventh is even worth taking, John, because you want the special teams, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we just talk about Braden Mann, and part of his success is Keely Ringo. And
I also feel like they got rid of everybody on special teams, like they didn't matter, and it kind of impacted the special teams negatively. I mean, you remember, John, they had a bunch of great special teams players. Josh Jobe was one of them. They had a bunch of them, and it felt like they all left. And then
they used to sign. They really don't do that. They in the Chris Maragos, Brian Brayman days, they would sign like specific, like this guy's a special teams player. And they've gone away from that. It's difficult. You generally, in the modern enemy, you generally need to be able to do something else. So I think Ringo will be here, but Jacorian Bennett, I don't see a role for him. Mac McWilliams is going to have to make the team in training camp. I mean, he could be cut in a year or two.
Yeah.
There's just a lot deeper corner, and that's a good thing. And it's kind of rare. You see how important it is to him, because Jones is 32, I think. They typically don't go that old in free agency, but they wanted somebody they know they can count on to play a handful of snaps, like Isaiah Rodgers did in 2024. Sort of the mentality there.
All right, John, good stuff. Now, so I think we hit on most of the signings here. I did hear Brandon Graham say he's interested in year 17. You mentioned him when we talked about Ebiketie. We will see if they bring him back. The Jordan Davis extension. Tariq Woolen, as we've talked about.
By the way, the numbers are out on the Jordan Davis.
Yeah, we're going to get there. Just 1 second. Let me just run down. Actually, let's hit that real quick first before we recap everything. Jordan Davis, the numbers came in. I saw you retweeted out this morning. What are the numbers, John? How do they look for the Eagles on the Jordan Davis contract?
Well, the most important, his cap hit was going to be just under 13 million this year, 12.9 something. Now it's down to 5.072 million this year. So you see what the extension does in the short term. You're basically picking up almost 8 million, a little bit under 8 million in cap space. And the cap number for the next 2 years, 8.552 million in 2027, 2028. 13.93, which is still very doable. And then there's the potential out in the contract that you always have if it's not going well. But boy, the Boyd years go through 2033, and the Boyd number in 2029, if you want out, 44 million cap hit.
Ooh, boy.
So if you think the Eagles are going away from their strategy, they are not. They are not.
So basically, we need Jordan Davis to continue to play well because, John, the only way this strategy doesn't work is when players don't,
it's when players stink. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Eagles have to move on from them. That's what makes it really hard, So if they keep playing well and you can keep extending guys and keep giving them new contracts, it's, the system has worked for them.
At the end of the day, I say it all the time. Everything's about evaluation. At the end of the day, you can do, when you get that evaluation right, you're Howie Roseman. When you get it wrong, you're Mickey Loomis because they do the same fucking thing. Saints had started it really before the Eagles, if you want to be honest, but they missed on a boatload of players. And that's why one's got the reputation he does, and the other has the reputation he does.
Got to hit on the players, Johnny Mac, no doubt about it. So with those numbers that come out, John, how does this change, if at all, your perspective on the Jordan Davis contract? We talked about 3 years, 78 million with 65 guaranteed. We added in that fifth-year option, which is really like a 4-year, $91 million deal. Now that you've seen the numbers, does it change your perspective on the deal at all? Seems like a lot more friendly, obviously, like you said, on our initial reaction. A lot more Eagle-friendly than it was initially thought to be. Your modified thought process on the Jordan Davis contract.
Yeah, basically exactly what I thought when we talked about it, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after it was announced, 64 guaranteed number was hoo-ha. He got 38.938 at signing. That's the important number for the player, and that's enormous. So good for Jordan Davis, but that, 64, a lot of that is not guaranteed until next March. So if bad things happen, that's not, again, the agents have made up new words. Used to be guaranteed money is guaranteed at signing. What do you get at signing? That's guaranteed money.
Now it's up
now it's guarantees in the contract. So, there's a guarantee next March, and then there's, that's how they do it now. You've heard this term fully guaranteed. I've been through this with Jody. What does it mean? I'm like, they're just using semantics. So, the Eagles happen to make a decision next March, and look, he's probably going to get that money. Things would have to go really negative for him not to get that money. But to call it fully guaranteed at signing is just incorrect. It's sort of the hoo-ha that agents use to make themselves look good so they can get more clients. That's what's going on. Yeah. And the GMs around the league, and you heard people on the show, you've heard Andrew Brandt specifically, I'll never forget, told me the story. Is like, yeah, it was bullshit, but what do we care? We got the player. Let them say whatever they want. We know what the real contract is. And that's sort of how GMs, they kind of chuckle and they say, all right, announce what you want to announce. For the Eagles, it's a very, I'll tell you, I've been here for a while now. They generally don't sign bad contracts. And that blows people's minds. They say, well, what about Bryce Huff?
No. People really struggle with understanding exactly what you mean when you say that.
And that's about evaluation. They got the evaluation wrong. The contract and how I explained it, before it was Jake Rosenberg, now it's Bryce Johnston. Did Bryce Johnston do his job? Bryce Johnston did his job with Jordan Davis. If this doesn't work out, that's on the evaluation. Not that is a very good deal for the Eagles. The setup for what the Eagles want, understanding the framework of what they want.
Good stuff there for the Jordan Davis contract. Johnny Mack, interesting stuff here. Let's recap real quick. All right, what the Eagles have done so far. It was the first week of free agency this week. On Monday, the legal negotiating window opened up at noon Eastern time. And on Wednesday at 4 p.m., it was the official start of the new league year. All right, so a lot of change here with the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a fun time of the year because of how much change inevitably happens across the league. Guys leave teams, new guys go to different teams, and this is what it looks like for the Eagles right now. First move they made was they renegotiated Michael Carter, which I actually think, John, wasn't a bad move now in hindsight, looking at that versatility he might have with nickel and safety. They brought back Grant Calcaterra and signed Johnny Munt. Those are your two tight end signings. We'll see if we get the Goedert news coming up. Landon Dickerson restructured, John, kind of a pay cut, contract shortened. I thought that was a bit of a red flag to me. We'll get into that on today's Birds 365. Braden Mann gets a 4-year, $14 million deal, the punter contract we just talked about. Jonathan Jones, a 1-year deal for the 32-year-old veteran cornerback. Some depth there. Tariq Woolen gets the 1-year, $15 million deal, really a $12 million deal that can go up to $15 million. And then the Jordan Davis extension, 3-year, $78 million. And the latest was Arnold Ebiketie, which came in last night, or Ebiketie. I keep pronouncing that wrong. John, that's your list of moves so far for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I didn't hear. I could be wrong, but I didn't hear Johnny Munt. Did we forget?
I put him on.
All right. I didn't hear him. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, got to be accurate. I mentioned Munt, and so Munt and Calcaterra are two tight ends. John, what do you make? What do you make of that first week of free agency? I think we got to have some Goedert news coming quick, right? Coming soon. No?
Yeah, it's going to be today. I'm not sure if it's 4 or midnight. We were talking about that before. I was told Friday afternoon. They pushed it back to. That's what I was told. But it was a text message, so it could be flippant. I know Tuesday it was expected to expire at midnight, so it might be midnight. It might be 4 o'clock. But either way, I think you're going to hear some Dallas Goedert news today. Because if not, his dead cap accelerates onto this year's cap, and that'll create some issues for the Eagles. So I think the issue, spending more time, giving more time is things are closed. Dallas evidently wants to be here. So I'm leaning towards he'll be back. Otherwise, why are you going to push the Boyd date back?
For both sides, right? Like it almost wouldn't make sense for Goedert to do that either. Why would you miss out?
Makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't get a deal done, you can make an argument that Goedert's agent should be fired. I mean,
he might have something in his back pocket, but it doesn't look good. It seems to me like a guy who just wants to be here and he's bending over backwards to be here. And we'll see how it works out. But, and I don't know how excited people will be with Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, Johnny Munt's tight end room. And I don't think that precludes them from drafting a tight end in April. But somebody like Munt or Calcaterra might not even make the team if they draft a bigger name tight ends in the second, third round. But I don't know how much that'll excite people, but At least the draft proves the roster to a certain
right.
degree.
Right. I could see if that happened, John. I could see Calcaterra being out before Munt just because of skill set. I know Calcaterra is probably your
Well,
big.
that would depend on who you drafted. Did you
Right.
draft a blocking guy? Did you draft more of a receiving guy? So
Yeah, but you know how that goes. How many blocking guys, are coming out of the draft? They don't make them like that anymore. Now there's some guys who are good at it, but do you want to put all your eggs in that basket on a rookie player? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Well, I don't know. There's a couple guys, like I said, Max Clare, I think can do both to a certain degree. And I'm not even there. I don't think they're going to be in the Sadiq, which will probably upset people because he's a spectacular athlete. And I don't think
I'm a little iffy on him. I mean, I know he's got obviously has a lot of great traits, but Johnny's got like 800 college yards, dude.
No, plus I don't even think he's going to reach to 23 because of the type of athlete he is, and B, I don't think the Eagles will be interested that high anyway, even if he did. But then if you start going down the board, Eli Stowers is a tremendous athlete. I don't think they'd be interested in that type of tight end either. I think they want more of a guy who can do both. And we've talked about Oscar Delp if he gets healthy. Eli Raritan's a guy, the kid from Stanford, who now people are starting to talk about, Sam Roush. All these guys could say, no offense to Johnny Munns, but they could knock him off the roster. I don't think there's any question, but they do want, as we sit here today, the reason he's here is because he can block, and they didn't have a tight end who can block. So right now he looks pretty safe. I'm just saying that can change in April.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Good stuff there. All right, guys. Week 1 of free agency here across the NFL. A lot of changes for everybody. So it's been good for the Bird. Well, it's been a lot of change. Some good, some bad, and as John pointed out, you got to be patient with it. I think the Eagles have already improved drastically their cornerback spot, John, as we talked about at the open. And then if you are able to get that one at the edge rusher spot, do you potentially have a better edge rushing room coming in if Ebiketie's your 3 or your 4? And you bring in Jonathan Grenard? I think that would look pretty damn good, Johnny Mac. So we will see what the Eagles are able to do there. So overall, in a decent spot. John, let's look at segment 2 here. Appreciate everybody being here today. Before I move to segment 2, let me go to Stanley. Stanley becomes a member. Stanley A333, and he says this, Johnny Mac. I always love this. He says, shoot, where was it? Just became a member, and I watch all your shows to and from work every single day. Stanley, thank you, brother. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching each and every day. And we love having you here. Thank you, Stanley. And then he says, Johnny Mac cracks me up when he gets pissed off, LOL. So you're going to have to get pissed off at some Eagle fans today, Johnny Mac, to give Stanley some love for becoming a member. Thank you, Stanley. We appreciate that. A couple other pieces of business before we move into segment 2 for you guys. We are down to 5 remaining ticket pairs for the Eagle home opener with JAKIB Sports. All right, we have a kick-ass tailgate set up, Johnny Mac. We got Taps Tailgates, it's called. They're going to have a full tent. We got catered food, and $100, John, gets you to the tailgate, gets you food, and it gets you into the football game. And I guess as an added bonus, you get to hang out with me if you really want to in the lot. All right. So we got 5 pairs left.
That's a hell of a bonus. You gotta
pump that up there, right? So we will see. Come on, guys, get it sold out.
I gotta be in the stadium, but maybe I'll stop by too.
Yeah, we'll have Johnny Mac stop by before he checks into the stadium, which he will be down there for the home opener. So get your texting, guys. Get your season opener tickets with JAKIB Sports. Savvy gave us a couple more as well. So I want to get them sold out for Savvy seats as well. So thanks all you guys for doing it. Shoot Krause a text 267-261-3428. I'm looking forward to the home opener this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we will see who the Eagles open with. We don't know that yet until May, I believe the schedule will come out. So we will find out who the Eagles open with and when that home opener is for the Philadelphia Eagles. But you'll be there if you got your tickets. So don't forget to get them in 267-261-3428. 888-848-3428. Also want to give a thanks to Fritz and Bianculli's Law Firm for sponsoring Birds 365. Thanks to Brian Fritz and the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm. Don't forget to go to FBESQ.com. They are the best in Philadelphia, thanks to Brian Fritz. Johnny Mac, segment 2 here. While the Eagles have made some additions, the Eagles have also had some big departures. Okay, let's look at all the departures. Let's look at who hurts the most for the Philadelphia Eagles and really what changes with the Philadelphia Eagles after these departures. So the key list of departures, John, is this. Jalen Phillips obviously got his $120 million deal from Carolina. That is a massive deal for Jalen Phillips. Nacobe Dean gets $36 million from Las Vegas. All right, good deal for Nacobe Dean. Happy for him. I think it's a tough hit for the Birds. Reed Blankenship, all right, got $24.75 million from Houston. All right, he was an undrafted guy in Philly. He's been here for quite a bit of time, and now he is gone to Houston. Jahan Dotson got a 2-year, $15 million deal from Atlanta. Nice little deal for Jahan Dotson. All right, and then Uche Ojulari, Brett Toth, Matt Pryor, and Sam Howell. I believe I got them all. I'm not sure if anybody else signed elsewhere, but those are your departures from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Kylan Granson. I'm not hearing.
Oh, no, I didn't hear Kyle. I didn't say Kylan Granson. I didn't have him.
Kylan Granson signed with Tennessee yesterday. The Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, who are spending a hell of a lot of money. So, basically, you're subbing in if the Eagles do get Dallas Goedert back and they don't go to tight end in the draft. You're subbing in Johnny Munt for Kylan Granson, who was a good special teams player, by the way. Damn good special teams player. But again, nobody cares about that. So there's your bunch of Eagles who've signed elsewhere. Only guys left are A.J. Dillon, Marcus Epps, Dory Jackson, who was the best of the Eagles' Temu signings last year, but he's got age. Brett Johnson, who did a damn good job 2 years in a row with the Eagles for whatever reason. Matt, how does Matt Pryor get signed before Fred Johnson? Well, the answer is, Fred wants a starting role. I don't think he's going to find it, but probably should have leaped. Even Brett Toth, who I think did a good job. You would think Fred would get signed before, hasn't worked out that way. And also Okoronkwo, who, made the team last year, bit of a surprise, and then got hurt early in the season. He's still a free agent as well. And also should mention Ben Van Sumeren, because he was restricted. The Eagles didn't tender him because that's expensive. So he's free to sign elsewhere as well.
So, John, who of those losses? I think the obvious biggest one is Jalen Phillips. But let's just let's just for the sake of trying to even the playing field here. If the Eagles got back if the Eagles were able to land Jonathan Grenard, which is again that's we're going. I'm stretching the arm across the aisle here. We don't know for sure. That is not like a guarantee at all. So I'm kind of extending myself here, but. If the Eagles were to land that caliber of player, okay, to be the number one edge rusher, I think that changes the conversation a little bit. If you look at it from that perspective, who do you think would be the biggest loss here for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, ironically, if you want to, but if I get what you're saying, but the Eagles aren't done on the edge. So I think that's a worthy way to say it, but they're also not done at safety. So, I mean, if you want to look at their point, they have no safety to replace Reed Blankenship right now. You could argue Michael Carter, who's never played the position long-term, but Vic thinks he can, and maybe he can, and maybe he's great, but he's never done it before. So to just project him back there, or I brought up, hey, maybe Cooper DeJean will play safety, because now you have Michael Carter here, who once was one of the highest paid slot cornerbacks in the league because he was a good slot cornerback.
Right.
But these are all, heavy projections. And Cooper's as talented as he is. And I think he could do it. Vic thinks he can do it. But until you see it. So in theory, if you want to go that route, it would be Reed because they have no obvious. That's what I'm saying. So you would have to say, give me a safety name as well.
Right.
But in the case of Grenard and with Nacobe, they have the heir apparent already in house. Now there's some concern over the shoulder. And by the way, the shoulder is the same shoulder coming out. So a little bit of concern. I did find that out. So
yeah. So does that change your thought on that? Obviously,
a
you
little
mentioned
bit,
that
yeah,
yesterday,
because
like,
I mean,
hey, that's that same shoulder. Yeah.
there were people who he would have been a top 15 pick if he was healthy, and he wasn't. So there were a lot of teams in this league that took him off the board at least early because of that issue. And I think because he beat expectations, and there was all talk all offseason, like we all knew he wasn't going to be there doing work in the spring. And Vic had mentioned that we're probably not going to see him until August and later in August. And all of a sudden he was there day one of training camp and slowly worked his way up and everything seemed fine. There was no evident injury during the season, but all of a sudden here comes the postseason and he's getting surgery. So yeah, I'm more concerned it's the same shoulder, but again, he's 22. He's going to be 23 years old. I mean, he should be able to recover from that, but it's something to keep.
Now, obviously, the Eagles knew this before they let Nacobe Dean walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that too. But you can say that they knew Cam Jurgens' issue when they signed him to an extension, and he's still going to Columbia to get stem cell treatment. So, we all trust our doctors for the most part, but they're human beings too. They don't get everything right. That's a scary thought, which I know people don't like to think about.
I have firsthand experience, so I understand where you're coming from.
You think about the trust you put in doctors. I mean, they're human beings. They make mistakes like everybody else. The reason, the Eagles switched sort of team doctors is because they got saddled with a massive lawsuit from Chris Maragos's career ending with whether you want to say botched surgery, which is what one side says, or botched rehab, which is what one, and I'm talking about the medical sides. I'm not even talking about the Eagles. One side wants to blame the surgeon, and the other side wanted to blame the rehab. And all of a sudden you got this massive insurance payment, and they come to the Eagles and say, well, if this is going to happen to us again, and now they're with Jefferson Health. So that's what happened with Chris Maragos. I mean, they ain't always right. And surgeries aren't always, even though you've never heard the term unsuccessful surgery, there are a bunch of unsuccessful surgeries. Sharif Floyd, I bring up all the time, Philly kid. He's, was going to be a really good player in this league. Had a knee injury, knee surgery. They nicked a nerve, never the same. I had knee surgery. I still can't feel the outside of my left knee because they nicked a nerve. Now, it doesn't affect me in my everyday life because I'm not an athlete. If I was an athlete, it probably would have.
Right.
So, a little bit more concerned, but 22, 23, I've always thought the process, 90% of the time everything's going to be okay. But it is more concerning, just like it's concerning for different reasons. Cam's concerning, Landon's concerning. And now you got to put Jihad in that category as well. It's just that he's younger and, seems fine. Last time I saw him. So I'm presuming he's going to be okay. But that was a big tangent. I apologize. Getting back to your original statement.
Well, I do think it's very relevant to the conversation, though, so we appreciate you adding it.
Yeah, getting back to Grenard versus Phillips. Look, I think people, if that were to happen, I think people would be thrilled because Grenard's a better pass rusher. He's a better pure pass rusher. And it's going to be splashy and he's noticeable. But I think Phillips is a better all-around player. So again, depends what you want.
And when you say all around, you mean setting the edge. You mean doing the other things well,
Yeah.
like making things easier for Jalen and Jordan on the interior.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Not as sexy as a player, but I think there's more, Grenard's the sizzle, Phillips is the steak is how I would. They're both good players. I'm not saying, Grenard's a very good player, but he's mainly a pass rusher.
And did you see, John, real quick, just to throw another name in there, because we've talked about Grenard a lot. They're obviously, in the conversation for Grenard on a trade there. The latest that came out of Arizona was that Josh Sweat has requested a trade. Now, I don't know if that was confirmed by somebody other than who I originally saw. I think it was an Arizona reporter. Would you be interested in a reunion there, or does that not make sense? How do you view that?
Well, the Eagles always seem to like reunions, and they certainly know Josh, and they certainly know what type of player he is, what type of person he is. So I think he's a fit. I have not seen that from a, I don't want to pick on the guy who did it.
A bigger name,
I've not seen like official confirmation he's available, but look, they could do worse than bringing Josh Sweat back. I think. You shoot for the stars and you want to get younger and you want to do this and you want to do that. But if it doesn't work out, you gotta move. And, I don't think he'd be the best fit, but I think you could do a lot worse is how I would describe it.
Yeah. Some people in the chat are telling me Sweat actually came out himself and said that wasn't true, that he requested a trade.
Yeah,
maybe some fake news there. I did see it all over the timeline. So I just wanted to ask John what he thought of the name. John, anybody else out there that we're not thinking about right now that we should be thinking about? I mean, you talk about some of the guys, John, that they've been in on that they haven't landed. Phillips up to $30 million. You heard a little bit about them being involved in the Trey Hendrickson deal. He signed $28 million. Those are big numbers, which tells me the Eagles, as you pointed out earlier in this offseason, they have budgeted the money for the edge rusher. Well, when you've budgeted that much, John, that opens up how many potential people you could trade for versus if you're trying to keep it to under $12 million or something like that. Is there any names out there, John, that we're not thinking of that could be trade candidates, could be guys that are done with their current team, could be guys that have upcoming contracts that maybe the team doesn't want to pay? A name I loved last year was Trayvon Walker. I don't think he's going to be available, but is there any outside names we're not thinking about right now, John, at the edge rusher spot that we should be?
Not right now, but that could change quickly as you saw, as you see all the time. And especially as guys get paid, that's what's going on with Grenard. So, at his level of production, even though he's coming off a bad, and I get he's coming off a bad sack year, but he hurt his shoulder late in the season, number one, but his pressure numbers were the same as always. He was still having a big time. He just wasn't finishing. But the point is, the reason why he's available, he's under contract, but he knows he's underpaid and he's seen what all these guys are getting. And then you get the agent knocking on the door and saying, look, I mean, my guy's way underpaid. You got to bring it up. And in the case of Minnesota, they're in cap hell, so they can't really do it right now. So that's why he's on the trade market. Will that happen as Micah just exploded the top of the edge market? I think everybody's realistic that they're not going to hit that number anytime soon, with the exception of Myles Garrett. He might go back in. Max Crosby with his issues, I don't think he's in the conversation. Jalen Phillips is right there behind Nick Bosa now. Boy, I'm looking at the top paid edge rushers as we speak. Then you have Josh Hines-Allen, Brian Burns, Trey Hendrickson now, Nick Benito, Adofiowa, who just got paid, Montez Sweat, Andrew Van Ginkel, Karloptis, John Franklin Myers, who just got paid. Going down the list, none of these guys other than Grenard are in a position to go in and say, I need more money. So right now, that's it. You're down to your last proven commodity. Now you can go a different way and say, is there somebody in his rookie deal that you think has a massive upside? That would take some research, but that's not going to be a proven guy because proven edge rushers get paid. As you see, I mean, you could argue Jalen Phillips isn't that proven, but he still got 30 million.
Man. He's never made a Pro Bowl, right?
No.
Yeah, $30 million, never even made a Pro Bowl. That's pretty wild for Jalen Phillips.
I mean, that's guys get right now. I mean, it's going to be Grenard or the draft. And you know, it's probably time to start looking heavily at edge rushers in the draft. I know our Missouri fan will be pushing his guy. And he might be a first round pick, and it would be, I would think, later. But yeah, it's time to start looking at the draft at edge rusher, even though the Eagles still, I would heavily lean towards offensive line, but you know, they gotta get somebody. They gotta get somebody with an upside at the bare minimum. And the best case scenario would be just trade for Grenard, but we'll see if they can pull it off.
That would be great if they did that. I've always been a Grenard fan. I watch him, and I've always liked him. John, when you look real quick, and we're going to continue on the departure list just real quick, there's one disagreement I have with you, John, that I want to get into. When you look at those edge rushers in the draft, J-Mac, who do you think – what to you screams that's an Eagle pick 1 and that's a Vic Fangio player 2?
Oh, boy.
And maybe those two conflate. Maybe those two, you know.
Well, I'm not going to put in the Baileys, the Reeses, the Bains, because they're not going to be there. So I'm just talking about the guys who might be there,
right,
at 23, or I think the best would be for the Eagles would be Keldrick Falk, but I don't even think
I like
get
him
there.
I don't even think he gets to 23 either.
And I don't think he'll get to 23. Plus, I don't think he's a big player. I think he's more of a Howie player. And then I'm not in love with anybody else, to tell you the truth. I'd rather go to the second round, but you're not going to get a difference maker. So to me, you know, Cassius Howell has got to be in the conversation from Texas A&M, TJ Parker from Clemson, Zion Young from Missouri.
Yeah, there's a
Missouri. But yeah, I it's not a good position, man. I don't think any of those guys are going to hit the ground. Falk's the one guy I think who could, but I don't think he'll be there. And I don't think Messidor, if you're telling me who's not a fit, I would say Messidor. I don't think he's a fit.
Yeah, I hear his name a lot too, the Messidor name, but I'm with you. I don't 6'3", 259. He's a smaller dude. Do you think they stick with that smaller edge?
All they have. I mean, Ebiketie's smaller too. So all they have is smaller. Well, Jalix Hunt, interestingly, because he's got the frame. We'll see. I'm always interested to see
Jalix Hunt is what, John? 6'5", 6'6"?
Yeah, he's just long and rangy, and boy, he looks like an edge rusher. Interesting you brought up Josh Sweat. I remember the first day I ever met Josh Sweat because I said that guy's an edge rusher.
You used to say he's like if you made an edge rusher in a lab physically. Yeah.
If Hollywood was casting an edge rusher, they would cast Josh Sweat. And I get a little bit, not quite as defined as Josh, as Jalix Hunt, but
is Jalix, what's he? He's listed as 6'3", but is he a little bigger than that?
Well, he's long. So, you know, to me, the arm length is more important than height. Sometimes just people have those long arms, but his arm length is 34 3/8. So, way over the 34 they look for. And he's 6'3". I'm looking at his actual combine pro day numbers, 6'3 3/4. So he's really 6'4". But more to me, he's got the frame to add weight and still have that length and still have that athleticism, and he already has. But if he really, dedicates himself to that, I think he could turn into, if he sculpts up his body like TJ Edwards did or Nacobe Dean did, I think he could have something special. But yeah, he'd be, he's considered undersized. Nolan's obviously undersized. Ebiketie's undersized. So, they seem to be going to that style, but Jalen Phillips came.
Yeah, and he wasn't really that. I mean, he was pretty big, right?
Oh, he's 6'6", 260.
That's what I want. I want give me a fuck. I want an edge rusher that jumps off the page, man. That's what I want. But can't always get what you want.
That's get Daniil Hunter. It's only 40, man. That dude's a cyborg.
Yes, he is. And Garrett obviously is the other obvious cyborg.
Yeah. Miles is by himself. He
stands alone.
He's a predator skating on grass, whatever Cam Jurgens said.
Is that what? Yeah, that's right. Cam had that funny phrase for Miles Garrett. All right, John, good stuff there. Let's see. That's going to be the big question here as we move into week 2 of free agency is what the Eagles do at the edge rusher. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they replace the loss of Jalen Phillips. John, I referenced the disagreement I have with you. And it's this. I think you're going to know it, obviously. Nacobe Dean, man. I understand where you're coming from with they got the replacement in the building, but I think certain players provide more to a football team than just what they do in the field of play. And I thought Nacobe Dean did it for the Eagles in spades. And I happen to think he's going to be a big loss. It doesn't mean I don't think they're going to be able to replace the production. But I think he's going to be a big loss to that football team from a leadership perspective, from a communication perspective, and really just what I thought was a player that grew into an awesome young football player, good on the field when he was healthy, and a great leader, and all of those things. I think the loss of Nacobe Dean, John, is massive. I really do. And I know they got the replacement in the building, but that to me is one I've circled as a big one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't know what people expect is more of the I love Nacobe Dean. I'm like everybody else. What's not to love? I just don't think people are realistic about it. I think they get emotional about players they like. I mean, this was always the end game. I mean, one guy's more talented. And more talent doesn't guarantee you're going to be better. By now, I mean, there's a long list of guys who didn't live up to their talent, but there's nothing about Jihad Campbell in the first 6 games of last season that should have raised an eyebrow for anybody. Like you've already seen it. And I would argue that he was a better in the first 6 games than Nacobe was in the last whatever number of games. Now, I know I'm in a small minority because people were enamored by the blitzing and the physicality. And Vic correctly talks about his football IQ and his intelligence. But I think the splashiness of the blitz, which ironically the Eagles don't even do that much compared to other teams. Like I said, boy, I would love to see Nacobe Dean because he proved to be just a phenomenal blitzer last year. I would love to see him with Brian Flores, just to see what he would do with him because he turned Eric Wilson into a blitzer. So if he can do that, imagine what he could do with Nacobe Dean. But yeah, I just think people like the guy and they And I get it. You know, you like players, and he's got a great personality. What's not to root for? And I'm going to be rooting for him in Las Vegas. And I think he's going to be a good player. But Jihad Campbell's upside is just
big. Yeah.
It's enormous. And again, you talk, and I'm a little bit concerned about the shoulder, and but if he didn't have that issue, he'd be a top 15 pick. I mean,
but he does have it, right? I mean, he does have it. We can't.
Well, yes. I mean,
but you're talking strictly in the talent of the player.
Yeah,
he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, he's got everything. He's so long. Imagine if you're a quarterback throwing around that guy, throwing over that guy, layered. He's so long. He's so athletic. He's so physically gifted. Now, maybe he doesn't, I always bring up Jack Del Rio. I'm old. I'm bringing up Jack Del Rio versus Dontarius Thomas. People should look him up. I remember Jack Del Rio is one of the best nickel linebackers I've ever seen. Couldn't run a lick just because he was so smart. He knew zone coverage. That was the Tampa 2 days. He knew where to be. He knew where the landmarks were. He knew where the spots were. And he was a phenomenal, and he turned into a Pro Bowl player. And he couldn't run that well compared to other linebackers. And then they drafted Dontarius Thomas, who's this 4'3", great athlete, who, by the way, was incredibly intelligent. He had like a 4 GPA. He was, he's like Nacobe. He's a nuclear engineer. But he wasn't football smart, and he didn't know where to be. And I'm not comparing because Nacobe's football smart. Nacobe's got
very
tremendous,
smart,
tremendous instincts. And
do you think that's the one area that Nacobe has over Jihad? Because obviously we can't deny what you're talking about when it comes to the athletic prowess of Jihad Campbell. That's very evident and obvious. But do you think that's the one area of drop-off?
Yeah, no doubt. But I think a lot of people don't realize, because the Eagles had no idea when Nacobe was coming back last season. So that's number one, why they drafted Jihad Campbell. Number two, that meant Zack Baun had to take over the role of being the leader of the defense. And I think a lot of people don't understand that they were, they didn't change that. Zack Baun was that for the whole season. So you have, and my biggest concern was Zack was so gifted as a playmaker, and people who listen to me, remember me talking about this last year. By giving him the Mike linebacker responsibilities, you're going to take away from his ability to sort of roam and make big splash plays. I was concerned about that, and there was a little bit of that. It scaled back a little bit because he's got more responsibility, but he proved he can do it without a hiccup. And he's still, Nacobe Dean is a really good NFL linebacker. Zack Baun's a great NFL linebacker. 2 consecutive years. So for those people that, saying, well, can Zack do that? I mean, Zack Baun has been freaking unbelievable for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, that's just the reality of the NFL. You have one of the best linebackers in football, and you draft a guy with this enormous talent. That's, and you only play 2 linebackers, so you can't pay the third linebacker 12. It's just the reality of the business of the NFL.
Yeah, which makes sense. That's not lost on me for sure. I understand that.
And that's why none of us, for the most part, deterred. It's like, Nacobe's not going to be back. He's just not going to be back. And it sucks because we all love him. If you ask the beat reporters who they want back, we're all going to say Nacobe Dean.
Yeah, right. He's the good guy, right? He's the one that's fun to talk to. He's he's a smart dude. He's a cool
unbelievable,
dude, great leader
to talk to. And I'm going to miss him greatly. But I also, I'm going to tell you the truth about the reality of the NFL. It was never even a debate. And that's not an insult to Nacobe Dean. That's just the business of the NFL.
Good stuff there. All right, so those are the key departures, everybody. Jalen Phillips, Nacobe Dean, Reed Blankenship, Jahan Dotson, Uche Ojulari, Brett Toth, Matt Pryor, Sam Howell, and the latest was Kylan Granson, as John pointed out. So those are your losses for the Philadelphia Eagles. Going to be very interesting to see. I want to thank everybody for being here. All right, hit that like button. Appreciate all you guys. John, segment number 3, we got to talk about the big news that could be coming today, Johnny Mac. Dallas Goedert is still out there. The decision still lingers. I'm of the belief they're getting this thing done. I mean, why does Goedert extend it, and why do the Eagles extend it, to Friday if they don't want to get a deal done? My question is, what the hell is taking so long? If they can both agree to extend the void year, Goedert, says I don't even need to hit the free agency market. Can the Eagles give him the damn deal? What's going on here, Johnny Mac? What's going into this decision today with Dallas Goedert? When do you expect it to come? And what do you expect it to look like with Dallas Goedert if it does come? Or maybe it's he becomes a free agent today and he ends up in I don't know, Tampa or somewhere.
Yeah, I think today's the day. But real quick before I get to that, Ian Rappaport just I guess they had an interview with Kenny Gainwell. Moving to Tampa Bay. And Ian just tweeted, related, Kenneth Gainwell is now Kenny Gainwell. This is what I hate. We asked Kenny Gainwell. I think I asked Kenny Gainwell, do you prefer Kenny or Kenneth in his rookie season? And he said, Kenny. I've been calling him right in Kenny Gainwell since his rookie season. Everybody else has been calling him Kenneth Gainwell. Not in Philadelphia, but everywhere else. He's been Kenny Gainwell the whole time. God, that bothers me. Whatever. God, and he's been Kenny Gainwell the whole time. I saw that
tweet from Rappaport. I have his notifications on, so I just saw
my Lord. Come on, Ian. He's been Kenny Gainwell the whole time. But anyway, for Dallas Goedert, yeah, I mean, I said it a little bit earlier in the show. Obviously, he wants to be back. The Eagles could use him back. It doesn't make sense. I know a lot because people want to go outside, and how we talked about this, and they want David Njoku and this. They get $20 million accelerated on the salary cap if he leaves. So what would you rather have? Dallas Goedert for 1 year and $10 million, or David Njoku for 1 year and $10 million and $20 million gets accelerated on your salary cap? It's a no-brainer to me. A no-brainer. The only question is does Dallas Goedert have something in his camp, have something in his back pocket? Do they have 2 years? Do they have $12 million? Are the Eagles balking at something? Something's going on because they haven't made the deal.
Yeah, right.
So they're trying to come to some kind of middle grounds, but it makes very little sense at this point for the Eagles to move on from Dallas Goedert. I don't want to compare it to AJ, but it's a similar situation in that it makes no business sense right now. Because of the void years, because of the void money that we talked about with Jordan Davis. This is the bad side. If you're about to move on from a player, this is the bad side. Then you get all the money accelerated into 1 year on the cap. So it makes sense. He's still playing at a high level. If you have the blocker, and Johnny Munt can do it now, and if you get somebody better, great. If you don't, let it be Johnny Munt. Either way, you've gotten better. Why not bring him back?
And how do you like the fit with the projected offense, the new offense? We've talked a lot about styles and things of that nature and how they might change. And you obviously gave clarity to that when Johnny Munt was signed. Johnny Mac, how do you view Goedert's fit in what we're projecting this offense is going to try to do?
Oh, well, I think he can do anything as a receiver in any offense. So I think he fits any offense. Look, you hope he has a little bit of a bounce back. You prefer that he especially set the edge a little bit better. And that was a pretty big decline. So I think, he'll probably regress a little bit back to the mean, because that's not something you lose due to, as you get older due to athleticism. That's more about technique and fundamentals, and he's already a big, strong dude. So, That's part of his game that shouldn't decline. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a market correction there, and he probably will, more attention to detail, and he probably will get better. I've talked about that. My prediction is the Eagles' offense will be better than it was last year, not because of Sean Mannion, not
because they were 25th overall, and it's hard to go down, right?
Well, and a bunch of guys regressed, and a bunch of really good players regressed.
Yeah, I just,
and they know it, and they're going to be focused on saying, "Boy, I played like shit last year," and at least up to their standards, and they're going to bounce back, no matter who it was. If he would have hired Josh Grizzard or Jared Johnson or Zander Krause, no matter who you hired, they're going to get better because those guys are going to look themselves in the mirror, and they're really good players, and they're going to say, "Boy, I played like shit last year." At least, again, to their standards, and they're going to bounce back. That's my opinion.
What about players like Cam and Landon, though, where it's not as simple?
Well, the health. I mean, the health. Right. You can't predict health.
Those two guys struggle. I mean, couldn't you make an argument that the whole offense is going to struggle? I mean, that's not to say two players is everything, but if you don't have a great offensive line, John, you've been saying this since I've been listening to you for the last 6 years of my life. I mean, you can't play football if you can't block people. We got Cam and Landon down in Medellin, Colombia, getting stem cells. Dr. Chow's like, yeah, they're throwing a needle in a haystack, hoping that works. And they're promoting it on their Instagrams as paid promos. I mean, I'm not even sure they got stem cells, John. I'm now wondering if that was just a straight up promo, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that helping, but you can't predict how. I heard Pat Kerwin talk about that the other day on Sirius. It's like people like to project this guy's injury prone, this guy's that. There's no predicting. There's no predicting injuries when you're an NFL team. You could have a guy who goes through his entire college career completely healthy, and then he gets injured. I mean, it's a violent sport. People are going to get injured. So, but when you have guys who are already injured and you're expecting them to get healthy, then that's probably not a good way to go. And I think you saw the adjustment to Landon's contract that the Eagles are thinking about life after Landon Dickerson. And they got to be prepared for it. And that's why I look like, I mentioned Spencer Fanu because, there's a guy who probably should be a top 10 pick, but if people are looking at him like a tackle, well, his arms measured really small at the combine, and they might not think he could play tackle. So if he's got to move inside to play guard or even center, they're not going to take him in the top 10. So he's going to start to fall. And if he starts to fall to the Eagles, I mean, I jump on that guy because there's your answer to all your problems. He can play anywhere. So if Landon breaks down, he can play there. If Cam breaks down, he can play there. If he needs to wait till Lane Johnson, I think he can play there. Retires. I mean, there is what's called and I'll do it right now. That's my safest pick in the draft in the first round. I do it every year. Low risk picks. There's high risk picks. He is a very low risk pick.
Wait, so who is it? Fano, you said?
Yeah.
So he's your safest pick this year?
Yeah.
That's a big one. That's always big when you give out your safest pick.
Yeah, because even if he fails at tackle, he's going to be a great guard.
Right. John, I just don't know how you think he's going to be down there, dude.
I
thought originally he was going to be a top 10 pick. Now, maybe I'm way off. Maybe that's not where he's going to go.
Well, he was. Everybody had him top 10. His arms were 32 1/8 inch, which are smaller than Will Campbell's. Shorter. Shouldn't say small.
Shorter than right. So people are going to be concerned about him putting him at tackle.
Yes. Now, that there was all that talk about Will Campbell last year, and New England did it anyway, I think at 4th overall. And he actually played pretty well in the regular season, played damn well. And everybody was spiking the football. And then all of a sudden, here come the playoffs, and he was just an abject disaster. So that's in the forefront of everybody's mind. And it might have been injury related. I know he's dealing with something. I forget if it was a knee. I forget what it was. And that's what the Patriots are blaming it on. But whatever, he looked bad. And all of a sudden, the arm length pops up again because you're supposed to have 34-inch arms to play tackle in the NFL. And 34 is a hell of a long way away from 32 and an eighth. But I'm telling you, he's going to be an all-pro guard. And by the way, I don't think he is going to play tackle in the NFL. I think he's going to play guard. But he's going to be an all-pro. And that's a home run. I still don't think he gets to 23. But keep an eye on it because he's already started to fall in a lot of these mocks, which are meaningless. Because the smarter, the savvier people are looking at that arm length, which is really, really bad from what an NFL team wants in that particular position. He's obviously not going to fall too far, but he's going to be a first-round pick. But, teams don't like taking guards in the top 10.
Now I see where you're coming from. If people are concerned to put him at tackle, it does become a slippery slope for him, where he falls out of the top teams and then maybe he does slide down the board a little bit. That's going to be interesting to see. John, real quick on this, and I want to just get back to just finalizing that conversation on Goedert. What is your opinion and your personal concern level on the Eagles developing offensive linemen with life after Jeff Stoutland?
I'm like everybody. I'll give Curse Cooper a chance. All you can do is look at his history in Minnesota, and it wasn't terrible. I think people, Christian Darrisaw turned into one of the best left tackles in football before his injury, and now he was a first-round pick. Donovan Jackson was a first-round pick last year, and he looks like he's going to be a really good player. But these are first-round picks. The other guys, the problem is some guys who did not perform, like Ed Ingram just got a lot of money because he left Minnesota and went to Houston and played well, and he made a lot of money. Garrett Bradbury just got traded. Who did he get traded to? Chicago, I think, maybe. But he was not good in Minnesota, and he went to New England, and he's in the Super Bowl. He's not great, but he did a better job when he left.
He was good enough to be a part of a team that went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Fair enough.
So Ed Ingram's in that category. There's a third guy I can't think of off the top of my head, but so there's some guys who underachieved there and went other places and played better. I don't think that's a positive. So, their first round when they invest in guys at the top of the draft, everything's been good. But when you've had to develop lesser guys, it hasn't been as good. But he'll be working with better players here. That'll help. But if you're talking about the Drew Kendalls of the world, the Cam Williamses of the world, Miles Hinton, Willie Lampkin, Holland Pierce. The Eagles have a ton of young offensive talent that was brought in specifically for Jeff Stoutland, let's be honest. And he thought they had as what he would call the critical factors to succeed in the NFL. I doubt all of them would have succeeded if Jeff Stoutland was here, but I bet you one or two would have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. I just wonder what that looks like, in life moving forward. We've been, we've had him for so long, John, and we've become accustomed to if a guy, I like the way I phrased it yesterday. It's like, if a guy's gonna be able to play in the NFL, Jeff was going to get it out of him. And, at least we always felt like that. And that seemed to be always true in Philly. We will see what it looks like moving forward. John, back to Goedert real quick. What do you think that deal looks like? I feel like the fact that it got this far tells you it can't be too big. There's obviously some concern there. Is it $6 million? Is it $8 million? Is it a running it back last year, $10 million? Where do you see that deal coming with Dallas Goedert?
I think that the absolute height would be $10 million.
Me too.
He's going to be 32, like I said, in, I believe, January of next year. So before the end of the season. It's just life in the NFL, man. You're going to be 32 by the end of the season. Nobody's giving you massive money. I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't been able to get 2 years, but maybe he hasn't been looking, because it's pretty clear he wants to be here. So maybe it just comes down to that. Eventually, if he does come back, we'll get to talk to him about these things. But I think 13 touchdowns would have gotten 2 years somewhere. But he's kicking back, boy. Like, there's no reason. You know why the Eagles are doing this. There's no reason Dallas Goedert should be doing this. None. Other than he wants to be here. So the rare fans always talk about, hometown discounts. Dallas Goedert's one of the few guys that are going to give you a hometown discount. Most times that doesn't really exist. But it looks like it's heading that way. And from a business perspective, it just makes sense for the Eagles, so they can kick the dead money down the road again another year and try to figure it out. And they have more cap space to adjust it next season, projected. But, either way, it's coming due at some point, but this is not the time that you want it to come due.
Any concern for you on bringing back largely the same tight end room, if that's what they ended up doing? I mean, they'd have Calcaterra and Goedert back, and obviously
I think it fits. Yeah, I think it fits better. And I still hope they draft a tight end who's got some upside.
Yeah, because if not, then they're going to be in the same position next year.
Yeah, they are. But I think it's pretty easy to bring back Grant Calcaterra if you want, Johnny Monda if you want.
I guess, John, the only concern with that would be, like, are they going to use the first round pick on an offensive lineman, and then a second or third round pick on a tight end, and now two of your top three picks potentially are kind of luxury picks because they probably won't get on the field right away?
Well, I don't know about the offensive lineman. I think he's getting on the field.
Well, you think he'll start as getting on the field, or you think he'll be waiting for somebody to get injured?
The second part's probably going to happen. Two, I think Tyler Steen is often underrated, but I don't think, if somebody comes in and can play at a higher level, they'll just move him to a backup position, be sort of the sixth man. So, there's wiggle room for that. Tight end, I think if you get the right tight end, it's Calcaterra or Mont who are out of the equation. That guy's the tight end too. If you have Dallas, and the new projected tight end would be tight end too. And then depending if he's more of a receiver type, you keep Mont. If he's more of a blocking type, you keep Calcaterra. So I think, and obviously the second tight end would play a significant amount, no matter what, because you're going to play a heck of a lot of 12 personnel with this offense. So, I think it makes perfect sense, and both of them would probably play, maybe not full-time starters, but significant snaps as rookies.
It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing here, Johnny Mac, with everything. We got a couple super chats we'll get to. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. Don't forget to hit the like, as I mentioned. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I got to give a shout to everybody. All right, we're growing, having a good week here on JAKIB, so thank you guys for that. And also our Clips channel, which I started just a couple months ago. Probably should have been doing this for a while, but it's a little bit of a different type of content for everybody. Shorter clips from our shows, 8 to 10 minutes, and then a bunch of short form content. Go and subscribe to the Clips channel over there. We're up to 1350, and we got accepted into the YouTube partner program. So thanks all of the great people who listen to JAKIB Sports and our shows. Go check out the Clips channel if you like shorter form versions of our shows and little segments from all of the shows and the content that we put out on JAKIB Sports. Also, for the tickets, guys, I mentioned it in the hour number 1. I'll mention it one more time here in hour number 2. Get your tickets at JAKIB Sports for the home opener, 267-261-3428. We got 5 of them left. Come on, guys. I don't want to go to the weekend without these suckers sold out. We got to fill these up, JAKIB Nation. I told Savvy Seats the deal would be done. They said, come on, man, $100 to get these into the game. Are Eagle fans fired up for the season, or are they teetering on the edge? I'm like, I don't know, Savvy. They might be teetering on the edge. So we will see what happens there. Good stuff from everybody doing it today. John, as the Eagles continue to roll through the offseason here, all right, what is next for this team? Week 1 of free agency was this week. We just talked about Goedert. I don't think we need to be redundant there, but how does this week change your perspective on the NFL draft? How did it change your perspective on the rest of talent acquisition season, as Howie Roseman calls it? It doesn't end in March, like he likes to remind us.
Not much, because you still have, second wave of free agency to come as they try to draft proof the roster. But the one position I've sort of put out of my mind, at least till day 3, is corner with McMullen, and now you bring in a veteran backup as well. So that's the one position that I think you can kind of cross off in the draft early. Anything's possible in day 3 because you're just taking the best players. But when you got to be a little bit more targeted, because there were people. I've seen a stunning amount of mock drafts that had the Eagles taking a corner, which I always thought was insane. And
yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't get that.
It certainly is insane now with Woolen here, and now you have a backup as well. So I don't think they're going to go corner. That's about the only thing that's changed. Ebiketie's not going to, they're still looking for a headliner as a pass rusher. That's not going to affect anything. Johnny Munt's not going to affect anything. They're still will consider a tight end if they can get one. So he's a draft-proof guy. So, everything's still in play, I would say, except corner.
I think you're right about that. I don't know why I saw so many corner, John. I didn't really understand that, the mock drafts with corners. I'm like, did you listen to the general manager told you he's pretty happy with the cornerback room? I don't think he's going to draft a corner at the top of the NFL draft, but we will see. Not quite draft proofed yet, though, right, John? I mean, they definitely got some work to do still. Yeah.
Yeah. You saw how many players they signed last year on 1-year deals. And that's already started with, and that'll continue. The Eagles, Howie does a better job at draft proofing than most teams. So when you talk about guys like Munt and Jonathan Jones specifically, they're here so you don't feel the need. I have to take a tight end. I have to take a cornerback. You don't feel that need.
Good stuff, John. That's what you want to do. And right on cue, I have to chuckle at this. My guy Rich Nutt says, at least we're not talking about AJ Brown. Thank you, Zander. Rich, you might want to put us on mute for the next 60 seconds. All right. Yeah. I got to do the weekly check-in here. John.
By the way, have any of those people, since we'll talk about AJ Brown, I mean, there's pretty significant acknowledgement out there that he doesn't want to be here. I mean, And
Well,
then
we do have some people in the chat who think that it's all a lie, that AJ has never said he doesn't want to be here. It's all media made, John. It's all media made.
What? Really? Really?
Yeah, we have people in this chat right now who believe.
No, I'm not claiming you. I know they exist. I'm like, what do you need? What more do you need? What is the bass wing conspiracy that I'm there with Albert Breer or anybody else? I know people like to pick on Diana, who's been right every step of the way. What is the fucking conspiracy? His agent's out in Indianapolis. He's given a list of teams. Give it up, man. Give it up. You look foolish. We all love AJ. I love him. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to play in this style of offense. Period. Stop. Full stop. And the Eagles are stubborn. And they shouldn't trade him from a business standpoint. But when you start talking about post-June 1st, do you really want somebody, again, the Mike Tomlin quote, great quote, do you really want the hostage or do you want the volunteer? Ask yourself that question because he doesn't want to play in this offense.
Where's your meter? The updated John McMullen meter.
Well, he's not getting traded in this window, but I don't think he'll be here week 1. I don't think he'll be here week 1. I don't think the Eagles want to go through it again. He's not going to be happy. I mean, it is what it is. And I'm of the belief, and again, I like AJ a lot personally. I'm of the belief that, look, the quarterback is the most important part of the team. I think it's insane already the way the Eagles have started going down this route to try to turn him into something he isn't. And I hope it's not the case. You build around the strengths of your quarterback. And that means you're going to run the football a lot, and that means you're only going to throw it 25, hopefully, times a game. Sometimes, you're going to have a spike, and you're going to need to throw it 40 times, and yada, yada, yada. We know all the context, but it's going to be a run-first offense. It's going to be a +1 designed offense, hopefully. And if you want to turn them into Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins and put them under center and play action, good fucking luck. Good luck with that. Dumb, but good luck.
Any updated information you were able to gather this week on A.J. Brown with everything happening in the NFL this week?
No, it's been the same way for a long time. He'd be gone. If there were no salary cap ramifications, he'd already be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, the Howie about, the guy's trying to create new rules as Brandon Lee. What more do you want? Well,
that just means Howie's doing. That means Howie's being a good GM. I like it, Howie. Good job.
I really don't understand those people who think we're making it up. I really don't. Like, what is the end game? Like, why do we care? I mean,
I hear you. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Appreciate everybody being here today. Let's go to some chats from the great people of JAKIB Nation. There he is, Rich Knight again. Rich, I just got to one of your other comments, and I will get to this one now. Member for 19 months. Thank you, Rich. He says this. I'm a daily listener, and thank you, J-Mac. If you were guessing, when might we hear about a Carter extension? One more. Give me a percentage on Grenard. 2 good questions from Rich Nutt. Rich, thank you, brother. Carter extension.
And I mean, timing. Timing's so always difficult because the Eagles want to get it done. Part of the reason, this early, they're obviously trying to make it as team friendly as possible. Drew Rosenhaus knows that he didn't have his best season. And if he comes back and proves he's healthy and plays at the level he played in 2024, going to break the bank and set every defensive tackle record. So Do you want to go down that route, or do you want how much money do you really need, or do you want the security of getting the big money now? That's basically, it's a two-way street. I think people forget that. The Eagles don't just walk into the Jefferson Health Training Complex and say, this is the day we want to get it done. So he has to want to get it done, and the Eagles will make him the highest paid defensive tackle in the history of football. And they will set the market, but they don't want to set it too high. They want to set it to where the next guy passes it. They don't want to go Micah Parsons, is what I'm saying. They don't want to go Tyler Linderbaum, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's where Drew Rosenhaus wants to go.
Exactly.
So it's a little bit more complicated than I think people think.
So what does Drew want? 38, 36, 40? What the fuck does he want?
Yeah, I think he wants to explode the market like he's Micah Parsons and Tyler Linderbaum.
Well, then the player has to play better, more consistently. I mean, the player's obviously great, but Micah Parsons didn't get a $46 million deal.
Well, maybe that's the case with Tyler Linderbaum isn't the best.
Now that one I agree with you. I don't know how the heck he ended up that high.
He's not the best center in football. So
no,
but the Eagles are also not the Raiders, and they're not going to do that. So there's still some work to be done, but they're working on it. I can tell you that. There was a very cognizant effort to make people know that Jalen Carter was there during Jordan Davis's extension press conference, because those trade sort of rumblings leaked out. And so there was a concerted effort to point out that everything's fine. And they are working on it, but yeah, it's a little bit more difficult than I think people realize. It's not just about the Eagles saying we want to extend him. They do want to extend him, but you got to figure out where it ends up. And I think I ultimately will. Percentage on Grenard, there's like 10 teams in on Grenard. So again, there's other people at play. And you would think, because of where the Eagles are, that some of the draft capitals, similar to Max Crosby, right? Like, if the Eagles were willing to give up 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby, and they weren't, but if they weren't going to win anyway, because they started 23 and Baltimore had 14. So which deal are you taking? One of those 10 teams, if they're really interested, and some of those teams have probably dropped off because they've probably gone other routes and gotten edge rushers. So I don't know the number right now. But odds are one of them has better draft capital to offer than the Eagles. So I would put it under 50% because there's so many teams. But as time goes on and some of those other teams make other decisions and go in different directions, that makes it more likely. I don't see a lot of other options for the Eagles at this stage other than the draft. So I think they'll try to get it done, but it'll come down. Like, I'm sure the Eagles want to give up their 3rd round pick, the Jets pick. So can Minnesota get a better pick from somebody else? That's what it comes down to. But I do think he's going to get traded.
We'll see what ends up happening. Rich Nutt, thanks for the great question, brother. Appreciate it. Here is Mr. Hill. What's up, Mr. Hill? He says, if Bay is there at 23, do we take him? And I can't for the life of me figure out who he's talking about, John.
Bay? Who's Bay?
I don't know. I have no clue. I'm like, am I a dumbass? Am I not doing my research properly? Who the hell are we talking about here?
Yeah, you're going to have to clarify.
Mr. Hill, please clarify in the chat. I will get back to your question. Thank you, brother. Here is Steve. What's up, Steve? Didn't the Eagles just sign defensive end Arnold Ebiketie? Yes, they did. We talked about it in the opening segment. Steve. Ebiketie has landed. It's a 1 year, $7 million, a little bit more than $7 million deal with about $4.3 million, I think was the guaranteed money for Arnold Ebiketie. So he landed in Eagle with Philly today. I think he's going to be a good depth edge rusher for the team.
Yeah, I think it's I like it. I like it. I've talked about him for a long time. We said in the opening segment. So rewind it. I imagine you and the powers that be will clip it at some point, but I think he's very good upside signing. He's got a lot of gifts, got about athletic gifts, very Howie like. They liked him in the draft in 2022. That was the Jordan Davis draft and Cam Jurgens, but they were in no man's land. He went 38th. Cam went 51st, so they weren't really close. But yeah, he's got some upside, but what he isn't is a meaningful answer to the issue. So a lot of people have said, does this take them out of Grenard? Or no, absolutely not. Or even a first round pick. He's more of a rotational edge rusher. And if he works out that he's their fourth in the rotation, that's pretty damn good.
I'll tell you what, John, if the Eagles aren't able to land Grenard, I have a hard time believing they won't go edge rusher in round one. I mean, how are they going to look past that for a,
I don't like the spot. They're going to have to go up because I don't like the spot. But they might, just because I don't like the options, that doesn't mean they don't. Like I think Falk's going top 15 now. So if Bailey's off the board, he's going to be off the board. Reese is off the board. Bain is off the board. And I don't think the Eagles would draft him because of his short arms. Falk's off the board. Then you're down to Messidor, Parker, Cassius Howell. Maybe we'll make our Mizzou fan happy. Maybe Zion Young. Anybody you're in love with at 23?
Especially
I guess Cassius Howell would be my next guy.
I do like Keldrick Falk, but I'm with you. I don't think he's there.
So I'm not in love with anybody at that spot. I think it's a bad spot for an edge rusher in the first round, whereas it's a good spot for an offensive lineman. So can't force it. Maybe you got to go all the way to the freaking trade deadline next year to get your Jalen Phillips next year. And you got to put it together with Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, and Arnold Ebiketie and try to get somebody in season.
We'll see what they end up doing here. Mr. Hill finally gave us what he was talking about. He says, guys, my bad. I had NBA brain. I don't know what that means. Sadiq Bey. I meant tight end Sadiq out of Oregon at 23. My bad.
Yeah, Kenyon Sadiq. We did talk about him. I don't think they're going to take him. I don't think he's going to be at 23 anymore because of how well he tested, how good athletically he is. I'll tell you who I'm sorry if you want to go out of the box because I'm in love with the player and they need a safety. Dylan
Downs, gotta be.
Well, no, he's going to go. To Caleb Downs is going to be.
He's going top 10. I was going to say.
Yeah. The kid from Oregon.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. Or he might be there. He might not, but he's going to go in the 20 to 25, 30 range. He's going to be in the conversation. That kid is phenomenal.
Too far-fetched for the Eagles to use their first on a safety?
Yeah, they never have. It is too far-fetched. But if you want to fix an issue, that'll fix your issue for years. But they're not going to do it. That's just a personal love of a particular player. Whoever gets him is going to be happy.
Yeah.
But Caleb Downs, I mean, there's two players in this draft, two blue chip players. Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs. That's it.
Where do you think Love goes?
I think he's going pretty freaking high.
It's also a chance he falls too, right? Just because of the position and who's going to be willing to take a running back. I don't know.
I don't think he's going to fall that much. In fact, I think he's going to go quicker than people expect.
Where do you think? Like top 10? Not top 5, right?
Well, I think people said Kansas City signed Kenneth Walker. Thank you. And a lot of people had him, the mocks had him going. I think Kansas City got kind of because they know he's not going to be there. That's my personal belief. Because nobody's taking Kenneth Walker over Jeremiah Love. You should be ashamed of yourself if you think because he won the Super Bowl, that's a better option. And even he was the MVP, obviously, but yada yada. Tennessee.
Well, the Raiders, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, and Giants are your top 5 picks. So obviously not Raiders. They're taking Mendoza. Jets at number 2. I mean, this is what I like about the draft this year, John. Like, who's going to go number 2?
They're going to take an edge rusher. I think they're going to take Reese, but they might take Bailey.
That kid is a fucking player, Arvell Reese.
It's kind of a tweener. That's the only thing about Arvell Reese.
True.
It's interesting to see where Sonny Styles go. I know we were talking to Ian last week, Ian Cummings. He's got him in his blue chip category, but he's an off-ball linebacker. So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull off the Devin White and go top 10.
How do you see Ruben Bain? I know he's got the short arms, but man, that guy can play, man.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I think he's going to have to be a 3 technique. I think he's got to move inside. So a little bit of a projection. I think he's a really good player, but boy, he's going to get locked up by NFL tackle, like big time like Lane Johnson, man. Oh my God, dude. He will keep that guy locked up till the end of time. That is a real issue. If your arms are that short on the edge, but he's got tremendous explosion and he can use that against centers and guards inside.
Right.
I think that's his future. But those big time tackles, man, if they lock you up with their big frames and you don't have long arms, you're in trouble. That's why it's such a big deal in the NFL. And there's a lot of big time tackles now.
The Chiefs are where, John? They pick like top 10, I think, right? 9, I think it is.
9. I got to pull up that's what I was trying to pull up.
I know the Giants have the 5th overall pick. The Commanders are up there at the 7th pick, I believe.
Yeah, I got to look at the top. They just sent it out. I'm trying to look. I got too many emails, man. Here we go. NFL draft. All right. Las Vegas 1, Jets 2, Cardinals 3, Titans 4. That's who I'm predicting Love goes to, by the way, Titans. I don't think it's great for him, but I think they're going to take him. Giants 5, Browns 6, Commanders 7, Saints 8. They might take him too if he gets there. Chiefs 9, Bengals 10, Dolphins 11, Cowboys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's your top 12 picks. Eagles start at 23. Still think offensive line, the far most likely way the Eagles go, because there's a bunch of offensive linemen that are worthy of that spot. And the Eagles won't like them all, but they'll like somebody, because you have the kid from Miami is going to go top 10. Fano, like I said, he's kind of up in the air. The other Utah kid, Caleb Lomu. The Eagles love Blake Miller and Monroe Freeling. I already know that for a fact. So they're going to be in the conversation. Proctor, I don't know if Proctor is or not, but he's going to be a first-round pick, I think. So you have all these names, and then the kid from Arizona State. How do you pronounce his name? I know Ian told me, but I forgot.
He's got a tough name. There's a couple tough names here in the draft this year.
Ian Acker, however you pronounce it.
Ian nailed it. It like rolled off the tongue. I'm like, Ian, how do you practice that name at night, man? What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
So there's a crap load of offensive linemen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I think might be in play for the first round. And so if you're playing the odds game, that's a good way to look at it.
Good stuff there. Mr. Hill, thank you, brother. A couple more super chats we got here today. Eduardo says, will there be a J-Max sighting at the JAKIB tailgate? He just referenced that a little bit ago. Maybe.
Yeah, probably. Depending on timing. I got to get logistics. Logistics are the
J-Mac will stop by the tailgate and then he'll pop in to cover the football game. That's probably how I expect it to go. So get there and maybe J-Mac will be down there. That'll be like your that'll be everybody's like bonus, not sold in the bill of goods, but it's the add-on for everybody. The J-Mac appearance. I love it. Here's Ken Bone. What's up, man?
I need Colin. Colin Thompson used to be my security guard. I need Colin back.
Get Colin down there. He says, taking a tackle in the first is dumb, especially if Lane plays 2 more years. I'm going edge, wide receiver, or tight end. Sadiq would be the prize. He's going to ball out.
No, well, I don't agree.
I don't agree either. I mean, Ken, what's your why do you think Lane's playing 2 more years is my question. I think Lane's got 1 year left. What do you project on that, John?
It's always up in the air, but obviously, yeah, coming off last season, I would say the only reason he's back this season is because he didn't like the way it ended last season. So I would say year by year is being kind, and I'm certainly not going to project 2 years. He goes completely healthy and he feels good and he's still playing at a high level. He could play.
He played half the year last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to project 2 years, the Eagles can't do that. Same thing. They can't even do that with Landon Dickerson, who's 27 years old. So
yeah, we didn't talk about that enough today. I know we did our show yesterday on it, but John, I thought
wide receiver doesn't enter the equation until they traded AJ Brown, and or when they trade AJ Brown. So you're going to have to presume that they are going to trade AJ Brown. Now, if they go into it and say, we're definitely trading him post June 1st, so we might as well take a wide receiver. I think it'll be more second round than first round, because again, the big time receivers, Tyson and Tate, are going to be long gone. Probably Mekhi Lemon as well. So those are the 3 that I think are going to be long gone. And then you're in the Chris Brazil, Denzel Boston area, which would be great in the second round, but I'm not taking them at 23. But then you got a bunch of good receivers that, Omar Cooper's coming in for a 30 visits, Zachariah Branch, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, Skylar Bell, bunch of receivers. Somebody will fall in the second round.
Yeah,
I think that's your wheelhouse.
I agree. That's the move there. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Ken, thank you, brother. We appreciate that. John, I want to real quick. I know we should have touched on it a little bit more today. Kind of got lost in the show. We had a lot of good topics today. But Landon Dickerson, we did our show yet. We did a quick reaction segment to it yesterday on the channel. If you missed that, go check out that. But just kind of now that you've slept on it, John, and probably a little bit more context you've been able to gather, what is your takeaway from the Landon Dickerson modified extension? I don't know of any other time that I remember a player just removing the last year of their deal.
Oh, that happens quite a bit. When guys take pay cuts, happened to TJ Hawkinson a couple of weeks ago.
Because why? They want to get to the open market quicker?
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't feel like the case here with Landon.
No,
right?
that doesn't feel like the case.
Landon's
different, but I'm just saying it happens
right.
all the time.
People will get rid of the last year, but in the case of Landon, it might mean something different.
Yeah, that's all I meant to clarify. That giving up the last year is actually helpful for some players, like who take the pay cut and can get the money back. In Landon's case, look, it's all health related. We all know it's all health related. He doesn't know. Landon Dickerson doesn't know. He said it. He went on after the loss to San Francisco. He's like, I don't know. I don't know if basically how I'm going to feel. And he called the season shitty from a health perspective. He wasn't talking, wasn't talking about the offense, or he meant how difficult it was to go through. So, the Eagles know then, and that's why I'm starting to talk about the Eagles have to have a contingency plan for Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson. And I mean like right now. And they might have it, if you think about guys like Drew Kendall and Willie Lampkin, who I know people are going to be excited about if you can develop them. Remember, they're changing philosophies too. So they want more athletic, speed-based offensive linemen who can reach block. I think Willie Lampkin's going to be a big story this spring and summer because he's such a, I know how popular he was out in Los Angeles because he's so unique. He's so short, but he's so athletic and so strong. Ed Kratz will tell you, former wrestler. Good guy too, but very athletic. And if you're trying to reach block, Drew Kendall's, he's a center mainly, but has cross-trained to guard. And then you have the old mentality would have been Stoutland, and we talked about it last year a little bit, was, well, can Cam Williams or Miles Hinton or even Holland Pierce move inside and play guard like Mekhi Becton? I don't think that's the way you should think about it anymore. So those guys are going to stay out of tackle. And maybe one of them can develop as well. They have a lot of young bodies but again, we don't know that much about Chris Cooper and if he's going to, and everything's changing. And so it's going to be an interesting story to follow. But when you have that first round talent, it's a lot easier to sleep at night than if you're trying to develop a day 3 pick.
Good stuff there. We'll see what ends up happening. Here is one more super chat. This is a good one. I'm trying to think. Sig Lord says trivia. Who led the NFL in all-purpose yards last season? I guessed Bijan, Christian McCaffrey, or Kevontae Turpin.
Yeah, I mean, you tend to look at the running backs who catch the football as well. Or if you're going to count, are you counting just running and receiving, or are you counting kick returns?
Yeah, because if you count returns, that's going to be a completely different. That's why I put Turpin.
I assume he means just rushing and receiving.
Sig says all wrong, so all my names were wrong.
Well, who was the top of the Smith and Jigba? Because he had so much receiving yards.
Yeah, I don't think so though. I mean, didn't Christian McCaffrey have 1,000 each on things?
Almost. Yeah, almost. He didn't quite get 1,000.
Here's the other guy I was wondering. Chimeri, what's that guy's name? Chimeri Dike, or I don't know how to say his fucking name. Is that who it is? I could see that being it. He's the Titans guy, right?
Yeah. Is he counting kick? How do we know?
He's counting. I think he's counting kick. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, who cares then? I would say I don't care about kick return.
Yeah, that's it. Sig says that's correct. That's it. That's the name. How do you pronounce that last name?
Cameron Dickey, I think, right? Shamiri Dickey, I think.
Come on, Chamiri. That's a tough name to hit. All right. Couple minutes left. Sig, thanks for the fun.
You're bringing up a 423 receiving guy who had 1,588 kick return yards. Like, who cares? That's why I said, are you counting kick returns? Which, to me, it's all purpose means rushing and receiving. And then would be who it would probably be McCaffrey.
I think Bijan was higher than McCaffrey last year.
Bijan. Yeah.
Bijan. Let me look. Yeah, Bijan at 22.98. He was.
It's probably Bijan, and Bijan's
150 ahead of McCaffrey.
And Bijan's probably the standard right now, I would say, for running back, even though plays we're in a team where people might not recognize it, but the NFL recognizes it.
Yeah. All right, John, good show, man, today. I think we covered a lot. Maybe we'll be talking again later today after the Dallas Goedert news comes down. But
we better do it at midnight.
Yeah, they probably will. They probably will. I thought we recapped week 1 of free agency pretty well today. With everything who came, who went. Ebiketie signed last night, or Ebiketie. They signed the cornerback, obviously. Also yesterday, what's his name? Jonathan Jones, Tariq Woolen. We recapped the Landon Dickerson reworked contract, Calcaterra and Johnny Munt. The Jordan Davis.
Never enough Johnny Munt talk. Johnny Munt cake talk. I love Johnny Munt.
There you go. Little John's a Johnny Munt guy. John, your final thoughts here on week 1 of free agency in the NFL. A lot changed in the NFL landscape this week, my friend.
Well, the Eagles just happy birthday to Jalix Hunt.
There you go.
Jalix Hunt's birthday today. So he turns 25. Big part of it, man. 34 3/8 length arm length for Jalix Hunt. There's your guy.
And what are Reuben
Jalix Hunt turn into?
Tom, what are Reuben Bain's arms compared to Hunt's?
Let me look up Reuben real quick. I don't know. I saw a picture of him. I thought people were photoshopping it. They were so small.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude,
but I don't know if
in college, like literally watching him every week, he was a fucking stud in college, dude.
All right, let me look it up real quick.
That's why I thought he was going to be a top 5 pick.
No, he's definitely a stud in college. I mean, nobody's.
No, I know you're not denying that. I'm just saying, like when I watched him, I remember being like, "Oh, he's going to be a top 5 pick." But you know how it gets the combine, and then they start to break down everything, and they learn everything about your life and your history and your past.
Well,
and
it's not even that. Like they already knew. So his arm length. Remember what did I say? Jalix Hunt was
34 3/8 or something.
Yeah. 30 7/8. Reuben
30
Bain.
7/8. So he's got 4 inches less.
I'm telling you, man. 3 technique, Reuben Bain.
Might be right. We'll see what happens. Johnny Mac, great show. I assume we're going to talk later today, though, J Mac. They got what are they waiting for with this Goedert deal? Why would Goedert not go to free agency if they're not getting the deal done? Come on.
It's a good question. Good question. Maybe look for a move to athletes first. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Time to get a new agent.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Call up Drew, man. Call up Drew Rosenhaus. He's getting
a lot of sense.
Hey,
a lot of sense. By the way, we should have. Did you see Reed? They did Exciting Mice. Did you see he talked about his free agency? Yeah. Not a lot.
Reed did.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted us to talk about the Jalen Hurts kids book. Did you see that? He's on the tour promoting the kids book.
I did see it. Good for Jalen, but yeah, we're a football show. I
don't care either. But good for him is right. I agree. All right, John, good show, my man. I will catch you. I think we're talking later today. I'm putting the over-under on us talking later today at around 80%. I think we're talking later today for sure.
All right. Again, it's going to have to be late considering Howie wants to fuck us all every day.
J Mac, great week of shows. Good show today. I will catch you later on. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right. See y'all.
All right, thanks, J Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen. He is the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. We love him here on Jacob. He's the best. Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody being here today. All right, I thought we had a great show today, man. A lot of good conversation, a lot of good topics, and I think the Eagles are in a fine spot. I mean, early it started ugly because people were just leaving left and right, and I think you look at that corner room right now, that looks pretty good with the additions of Tariq Woolen and Jonathan Jones. Now you have Cooper, Quinyon, Jonathan Jones, Tariq Woolen, Michael Carter. Still have some questions at safety. We'll see what they end up doing there. The linebacker spot with Jihad Campbell and Zack Baun. I'm a little more concerned about Jihad Campbell's injury than Johnny Mack is, but we will see. And then you look at, obviously, the defensive line, still pretty good there. So let's see what the Eagles end up doing. I think Dallas Goedert gets done today, and then the picture starts to become a little bit more clear, So we're going to see what ends up happening. But appreciate everybody being here today. All right. Appreciate everybody being here. Sig, I liked your Sig. How about Johnny Mack getting pissed at your trivia because he didn't have the answer? Sig, that was hilarious. All right. That was pretty hilarious. WP says better than a touchdown. Jay Hurts. I saw that. Good stuff for Jalen Hurts, putting out the kids' book. All right. Putting out the kids' book. So overall, a good show today. Do you guys think the Goedert deal gets done or what? Does the Goedert deal get done or what? I think it does, right? Why would Goedert not go? Why would Goedert not go test free agency? And are the Eagles going to stiff him after he didn't test free agency? I think the Goedert deal's got to get done, right? I think that's getting done today. Texas boy says no. Come on, Texas boy. Rich says today. Jimbo says today. WIP be stealing. That's all right, Brandon. That's all right, brother. They can do what they got to do, Brandon. At the end of the day, JAKIB is the place to be. JAKIB is the community to be in. Even the suckers and the losers and the haters love JAKIB. Like my boy Dabney. Right, Dabney? Dabney loves JAKIB. He loves to come in here and shit on us, but he loves it. He's here every day. He loves it. Dabney, we love you too, brother. They're not quibbling over 2 to 3 when they're eating 20. I'm with you, Rasputin. Zander, did you see D-Gun Lamborghini truck? That's interesting. Not Hurt says, Eagles ain't getting short on Bain. We don't need to wear it. That's true. That is true. Uh-oh. Who's calling my cell phone? Can you guys hear that ring? Can you hear that when that happens? Now, JAKIB replaced all sports talk for me. Z, get a Phillies host, Z, for Kerr for Daily Show. I'd like to do that. Rich, the problem is we're a smaller company, so I got to, I don't have unlimited resources to invest in. Rich, there's an old saying in Philadelphia and everywhere, but in Philadelphia, especially in sports talk, the Eagles pay the bills, dude. They just do. They just do. They really do. So, I got to make sure that would be worth my investment at the end of the day. Not to say that I don't want to do it, but the Eagles pay the bills, brother. The Eagles pay the bills. Were this an all-day platform, I'd never leave. Yeah, Rasputin, I got to try and get that done, man. I got to try and get that done. I got to go and grab a couple sponsors. I got it. Guys, at the end of the day, I'm always honest with you. Here's the truth. Here's the stone cold truth. I got to earn more cash. I got to increase the revenue of the company, which we're working on. We're getting closer and we're doing some things, but that's just the stone cold truth. More revenue means what? Means I can build shows. I can take shots on Phillies content. I can take shots on Sixers content. I can add a midday show, all of these different things. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Jason, that's right, brother. It's all about the money, man. It is what it is. Money's what it comes down to. Birds made man official. I saw that, Philly Don. That's good. That's good. Jalen Hurts just dropped a children's book. Eagles fans should pay attention. Can we get a little talk about it? Kirk, what's up with you wanting us to talk about the kids' book? Did you hear John? He said, we're a football show. I don't really give a rat's ass about the kids' book. But no, I think it's cool for Jalen. Good for him, man. Good for him. Good for him to release the kids' book. I think it's cool that he's done the media tour. He's gotten himself in front of some audiences as well. So it's good. It's good for Jalen. Jalen's always struck me as he's going to handle that part of the business well. He's got a good head on his shoulders. That's the one thing about Jalen Hurts that you can't deny. Guy's got a good head on his shoulders. Guy's a smart dude. He's not he's not like some players you see, like you worry about discipline. You worry about, maturity. You don't worry about that with Jalen Hurts. You don't worry about that with Jalen Hurts. Will they really Well, they released the book in audio form for Cilio. You got to Rasterton. That is as true as it gets. Oh man, Cilio's no reading no kids book. Zay, you invest with your bro Rico. My brother is a stone cold fucking genius. All right, my brother is a stone cold genius. So yes, if I'm investing any dollars, it's in my brother. It's in my brother. You guys got to check out his company, man. He's cool as shit. You know, all these companies popping up with everything. My brother's building a company that's different, but yeah, he's a savage. You know, there's an old saying, don't invest in companies, invest in people. Well, that's a guy I'm investing my money into. Trust me. And that's not because he's my brother. That's not because he's my brother. My brother left Rice. He was getting his PhD. I've told this story before. He was getting his PhD from Rice, dropped out of Rice, sent. I don't think I blocked a poodle, did I? Dropped out of Rice anyway. Dropped out of Rice. Sent, before he dropped out of Rice, he sent 250 emails or so every single day. I remember he woke up and he sent it, you know, all day. And he gets an answer from, you know, very few hedge venture capital guys. Because think about how many finance bros are pouring out of colleges, applying to jobs at New York finance companies. I mean, think about that. Think about how many finance bros are graduating college every single year. Are graduating. So my brother's, you know, he gets his degree in nanoscience and goes to Rice for his PhD, and he sends cold emails, gets picked up. You know, where somebody answers the call or answers the email, they get on a phone call, and the guy's like, "Holy shit, yeah, I'll hire you right now." Hired him off one Zoom call. Brother packed the bags. We moved out of Houston together. We lived in Houston at the time. And we moved home. He moved to New York, got the job. I remember when he started as doing it. And he said, I want to be a founder. I don't want to do this. I want to be a founder. I want to found a company. That's what I want to do. I want to be a founder. I want to raise capital, and I want to build I want to build a meaningful company. You know, his major in college was nanoscience. So nanoscience, you know, he's got that type of background. And then now it's funny. My brother's 29, Abe. He's 2 years older than me. Now the venture capitalist, Kevin Ryan, is the name. Kevin Ryan, who's, you know, multi-billionaire. He started, you know, he was the seed investment in MongoDB, started MongoDB. I mean, this guy's got an investment portfolio that is massive. And now it's come to a point where Kevin is comparing other CEOs to my brother. He's like, you guys aren't pushing hard enough. My brother is a savage, dude. I'm telling you right now. You know, I always say this. It's probably really hard to work for my brother. You know, he's got quite a team now. He's got, I think, almost 50 employees. Probably quite hard to work for my brother. But they're accomplishing great things. I'm proud of him, man. He's a better person than he is business guy, and he's an absolute great brother. I've never needed friends because I got my brother. I'm telling you right now, that's how we're very, very close knit. So I'm proud of him, man. Temple Records says, unlock Mr. Doodle. Your mods are rogue. Mod Doodle. Doodle is not getting a mod, bro. I might get rid of all the mods, by the way, once I launch the Discord. And then it's going to be members. The member hierarchy will be what reigns supreme. It will no longer be wrenches. All right. It's going to be the membership. Doodle, you member up. I think you'll be in good shape. All right. Member up or else, Doodle. I saw you tweeting at me. I'm like, dude, I don't even know who the fuck you're talking about. Who's this guy you keep tweeting me about? What's the name of it again? It's Radical AI. I think it's the company is it. I'll send the link. Pretty sick. Here's the company. It's a materials company. Materials company. So he showed me they have like an autonomous lab that basically is testing materials constantly. All right. That's testing materials constantly. It's unbelievable what they work on. Really, it really is. That's phenomenal. I mean, they're talking about, making the materials for, spacecrafts, for the Army, for missiles, for everything. So, how do you fly into space? You got to have the right materials, or else it'll melt and all these things. So Rasputin, and my brother is a stone cold genius in that department. Material science degree is the hardest degree that exists. It's material science is no joke. But Rasputin, as I'm sure you know, because you seem well versed, materials drive the world forward. I mean, think about the Industrial Revolution. Think about even back to when cavemen discovered fire, and then you use fire to create, everything that we have now, steel and wood and everything, so the advancement of materials is one of the most fundamental parts of development as humanity, for humanity. And my brother's at the forefront of it. So it's pretty awesome, man. I'm proud of him, and I hope all the success comes his way. He's certainly deserving of it. Medicine's a big one. How's the channel? That's all right, Kirk. I'm not worried about that. My favorite class in college was chemistry for the consumer. Invest in silver. Huge in infrastructure too. Great. It's a massive field. Rasputin says you have to be versed in everything. I agree, Rasputin. I try and be that, Rasputin. Doesn't mean I'm an expert in everything, but I do try and know. I do try and know a lot about the world. I like that. That's one of the things that drives me, Rasputin. I like to know things. I like to learn about how the world works. I like to learn about the different areas of business, of everything, finance, sports, you name it. I'm interested in it. And I think that's a good way to be, Rasputin. You got to have a good understanding of everything. The thing that my brother has really helped me with is, and we've kind of both, we kind of both are doing this together, but the rapid development right now of AI and just technology is insane. It's really insane. It's insane. So, you're right, Fleming. It is coming for us all, but you got to put yourself in a good position. So keep an eye out. Krause Digital is on the way. Come on, baby. Fleming, I am using it too. That's my clips channel. I mean, everything is I'm using it, man. I'm using it. And there's more coming too. More coming. I'm trying to, Fleming, you know what I'm working on right now is I'm working on, I got the hardware from a computer setup now. I need to get, I'm putting a little slush fund aside for my DGX Spark, which is NVIDIA's GPU, CPU core processor, basically, so I can start to train my own models. There's this guy, Karpathy, who's this insane guy in the AI world who is really phenomenal when it comes to software engineering. And he built this infrastructure that it just constantly retests itself. It's called like auto research, I believe. And you can just train a model and it just constantly is retesting itself against everything. And it's optimizing continuously. It's phenomenal. So if I can build my own model, think about that, building my own model based on all the intel I have from 14,000 videos across JAKIB Sports and, the Eagle Land. So that's my next big investment is an NVIDIA chip. I have a bunch of NVIDIA in my Roth, that's for sure. I invested huge in NVIDIA. You know who told me to do that, Kirk? My brother. 5 years ago, my brother said, Zander, I'm going to tell you something. If you got any extra money in the stock market, buy NVIDIA. Buy NVIDIA. And you can go and look at how much NVIDIA is going up in the last 5 years. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, Fleming. A bunch of open source stuff. Did you see NVIDIA and Palantir are working on an open source model? All sorts of stuff. There's Quen, there's tons of them out there, but they're all China right now, the open source ones. So I think America's really got to get into the race for open source. I mean, in the age of AI today, Fleming, it's like, dude, open source is going to be huge. People are shipping too many valuable things open source to try and keep everything behind, privatized. So I think open source is going to be massive, and we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully America keeps rolling on it. You made your money. NVIDIA ran like 1,000x already. Take some profit out. Temple, thanks for the stock advice. I agree, Rasputin. I agree, brother. Of course, America wants to monetize everything, but open source will at the end of the day, will supersede it. I mean, if NVIDIA is really going to put out an open source model combined with Palantir, I mean, people are going to have a hard time matching that tech. So, that's why I'm trying to buy the NVIDIA stuff. I want to buy 2 DGX Sparks. I got so much shit I want to do with it. Fleming. Open source is awesome. Have you looked into OpenClaw at all? I use OpenClaw a lot. I mean, I have a couple Mac Minis dedicated to 2 OpenClaws. They handle a lot of the back end stuff I do. So it's pretty awesome. Pretty crazy where the world is going, though. You got to stay ahead of it. That's my number one thing. Is I just want to stay ahead of it. Stay well versed in everything. Don't fall behind. Yeah, Google's crushing it too, Brian, as a company. Google's crushing it too. Zander, in Eagles news to where we stand today, what is most likely first round pick? I still think O-line, Kirk. You look at the O-line right now and how they're beat up, and obviously the news with Landon yesterday, Cam, who knows about Cam? So we'll see. I think O-line though. Anything proprietary gets tried. It's so true, especially in today's world, Especially in today's world. Temple says, stay ahead of the draft. I agree, Temple. You're right. And history does repeat, and it's been quite the bull market for a long time. Palantir CEO is a lunatic. You could say that again. Unblock Doodle. Who blocked Doodle? Did somebody block fucking Doodle? Doodle, can you come up with a new comment other than I don't know who the F the name you keep bringing up? Let me look let me see what's going on here. Let me look in the community. I don't see no damn Doodle blocked. We don't have very many people blocked. We got about 14 C25s and about 10 LJs. The Doodle. Let's see your ass in here, Doodle. Quit fucking crying, Doodle. This dude's crying. We talking business without B. Preston in the building. I'm going to have to rewatch and learn. Oh, Preston, we were into it a little bit, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. But I would know. I am Doodle. Okay, Temple. You want me to post proof? I don't need your fucking proof. Somebody probably blocked you. That was a monitor. Had a wrench. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Were you being dumb as shit, saying the same comment over and over again? I mean, what do you want from me, Doodle? Doodle head. All right, I'm getting out of here. I got to run. I got a big call at noon today. Some good things happening. All right, let's try and get it done. Guys, get these tickets sold, man. I told Savvy Seats the deal would be done. What, you guys don't want to go to an Eagle home opener for $100? The fuck? Come on, I got like 5 left. So get these done. Get these done, man. Send the text to Krause, 267-261-3428. It's going to be a kick-ass event. Guys, I wouldn't tell you it's going to be a kick-ass event and then not make it a kick-ass event. Okay? It's going to be a kick-ass event. I promise. I promise it's going to be a kick-ass event. Later, Zander. See you this afternoon. Rashton, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the support. Nobody wants to go with me. Come on, BGG. I told you, I'll find you a place to park. You'll be good once you get there. You'll just block all the entertainment. We got quite a bit of entertaining people here. Okay. Yeah, wedding is in June. Yep. I'm going to Italy right after. So I'll probably have 2 weeks, guys. I won't be on the shows. Can you believe it? I haven't not done 2 weeks of work ever in my life. I was talking to my fiance about this. She's like, you're not going to work on our honeymoon. I'm like, I have a hard time believing I'm not going to, at the very least, get out the laptop and the phone and check some things. I mean, I can't do it. It's what keeps me going. Then what am I supposed to do? I got to work a little bit, honey. I love the work. I really love the work. I really do. I really freaking love the work. Italy's awesome. Where in Italy? I'm going to Rome for 4 days, and then I'm going to we're going to 2 different places on the Amalfi Coast. So we're going to Rome. I wanted to go to Rome. I've never been to Italy. I'm Catholic. I love my Catholic faith. I want to go and see the Vatican. So I said, if we're going to Italy, it's a non-negotiable. We're going to Rome. So we're going to spend 3 nights in Rome. And then we're going 4 nights, I think, in, I forget the name of it, Priano or somewhere on the Amalfi Coast. 2 different spots on the Amalfi Coast. So I'm really excited to go to Italy. All right. I'm pretty damn excited to go to Italy. And I'm excited to shift for Rome. We have we got like an early tour for the Vatican. So we're going to get in before it's open to the general public. It's like I don't know, 7 a.m. or something before it opens to everybody. And I'm also doing the full tour to see the Sistine Chapel, which I'm super excited about. The Sistine Chapel is going to be awesome. And then we're heading to the Amalfi Coast. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man. Italy's the only is really, honestly, guys. I know world travel is awesome. People love it. You can see Brian says he's been to 56 countries. I've never been that type of dude. And maybe that's because it's my circumstances. Maybe if I get to a point where I got cash and, the businesses are running and I can go, maybe I'd have more of a liking to it. But it's never been something that grabbed me to want to go and world travel all over the place. But Italy's the one place I've always wanted to go. Italy's the one place I've always wanted to go. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Pricey. I had to stroke that check, I had to cut that check. So, Rich, sorry, man. No Philly shows, man. No Philly shows yet, dude. I had to cut the damn check to Italy. Flights. So. Yeah, Big Mike. I imagine it's going to be Krause for sure. All right. I've wanted to go to Italy and Ireland because I'm Catholic and Irish. That's awesome, man. Irish Catholics, great community. Great community. Good stuff, man. Bring back Rich. I'm going to get on that, brother. Probably not going to bring Jody back into the fold. That's not the way. That's not going to happen, Rich. I'll just pop your bubble now. Pop your balloon now. Did we trade? Look at this. They have a new nickname for AJ. Ass J. Holy crap. I'm not calling him that. Come on. I'm not calling him that. All right, guys. Hit that like button. Even you, Poodle. Here's Poodle. Look, he sends me the undeniable proof. It looks like it's working to me, Poodle. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about, Poodle Doodle Head? All right, Fleming. Come on, man. Milan, Rome, Tuscany, Naples, the Amalfi Coast. I think I'm hitting a couple of them. I know I fly out of Naples, I think, on the way back. So I'll probably be in Naples. I don't know. Honestly, Fleming, my fiance did it. Yeah, she planned it. I gave the card. That's how it goes. She planned. I said, honey, make it good. All right, I'm going to hit Rome for a couple days. Make it good. And here's the card. And she booked it, and everything is good. So I'm looking forward to it, but I can't say I know every detail. I cannot say I know every detail. Not yet, at least. I'll focus on that when it gets a little closer. Women, they're like, women need to be like, women will ask you, like, where are we September 14th of 2036? And you're like, what the royal F are you talking about? I'm focused on what I'm doing at 11 a.m. That's it. Okay. That's it. So she's got it all planned out. When we get a little closer, I would assume I'll know a little bit more. But all right, guys, love all you guys. Thanks for being here. Hit that like button. Good week of shows. I think we're going to be live again with Johnny Mac. Honestly, I do. I think Goddard's going to come down today, and we'll figure that out. we'll see what ends up happening with that. So it's going to be good stuff. Thanks for doing it. Hit the like button. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES, Eagles.